Welcome to the Loyal Opposition Podcast. I'm Bernie Flowers, one of Uncle Sam's wayward children. I believe that our country's best days are still in front of us, but if those best days are to come, we need to change the direction of the country now, before it's too late. I intend to talk about important issues and topics every week in hopes of helping to improve our country and our way of life. Please like, share, and subscribe. Elect me to Congress. I can make a difference for all Americans, and especially Marylanders. Guest for episode 52 is Mr. Steve Brown. Steve is a 2022 elected member of the Republican Central Committee of Howard County, Maryland. His focus is on the accuracy of the election process. He's a degreed engineer, having worked with government contracting for over 40 years, with extensive experience in engineering, business development, and program management. His experience encompasses the area of weaponry, sensors, field support equipment, and rail braking equipment. Before his current employment as a program management consultant, he managed the National Support Staff contract for the U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Service. In the late 1990s, he served as field director for both the Maryland and Pennsylvania Christian coalitions. He also served as the Southeastern Regional Field Director, covering 11 states for the National Christian Coalition. Without any further ado, let's welcome our friend, Steve. Steve, how are you doing today?
Great. Thanks for having me on, Bernie. I think we've got a lot of good information that people are going to be very interested in.
Well, man, I know you've been working hard to make things fair for our elections, and I just figured that people would want to know, so let's just talk about it. So you ready?
Sure.
Well, here we go. First, please describe the election situation in Maryland and what's being done to improve the accuracy of elections in our state.
Well, Bernie, since the 2020 election, there are several grassroots organizations that sprung up in Maryland, and we're talking about scores of people that are involved. And they're pretty much loosely aligned, and they cooperate in the state and are associated with several national organizations. And I'll mention some of these organizations. Some of your listeners might be aware of them. And these leaders or these organizations that are leaders in the fight include the Election Integrity Network, which is led by former Trump attorney Cleta Mitchell, Cause of America, which most people know who Mike Lindell is, the True the Vote, Catherine Engelbrecht, who's actually served some time. They were persecuting her for some revelations with voter fraud. Then Defend Our Union, which is originated out of Florida, and certainly last but not least, United Sovereign Americans, which we've gotten more heavily involved with here in Maryland. So as I said, we're kind of involved with all of them. The big thing that has been done in Maryland that's significant, and we've actually been a state leader, is the ongoing analysis of the voter rolls in conjunction with United Sovereign Americans. And in conjunction with the United Sovereign Americans, or USA, we pulled together an election compliance scorecard, which shows Maryland compliance with the federal election law, namely the Help America Vote Act, the National Voter Registration Act, known as NARVA 1993, and the Help America Vote Act, or HAVA, was passed in the early 2000s period. And in that scorecard, if you look at it, the first question, were the voter rolls accurate as required by the NARVA? Okay, we have found about 80,000 apparent violations in that documented chapter verse. And then another area, were the votes counted from eligible voters as required by the U.S. Constitution? And if you look at the 2020 election, we found 62,000 apparent voting violations. And then in the 2022 election, we found another 28,000 apparent violations. Okay. And then we found a discrepancy was the number of votes counted equal to the number of voters who voted? And then, lastly but not leastly, was the number of ballots in error according to the Help America Vote Act. If you look at the number of ballots, we can, according to HAVA, we can only have an error rate of 1 out of every 125,000 ballots. And that in 2022, the most recent election, that says we can only have 16 errors. And we found 27, almost 28,000 of them. So
Wow.
Maryland is just not in compliance, okay, with federal law. So what did we do with all this? What we did, and I don't want to take too much credit, but I'm part of the organization, is there has been a lawsuit that has been, well, I should first mention, to accumulate all this information, we had to do a number of public requests, data requests from the State Board of Elections. And particularly, I want to, David Morseberger, who's been the chief analyst, has done a tremendous job in
Great guy.
analyzing this. And so what happened, there's been a reaction from the state board. They changed the, whenever you request data, you have to sign an oath. And historically, that oath has been, or statement says, I will not use this for commercial purposes. You know, I'm not going to go out and take the voter rolls and try to sell real estate to people. Okay. Makes perfect sense. But what they did in 2023, they changed that to say, I will not use this to investigate elections in Maryland, which is totally the antithesis of what this whole process is set up for. So David Morseberger and Kate Sullivan, who have been leaders in this, filed a lawsuit in federal court January 18th, and they have been backed by the RIGHT organization, which stands for Restoring Integrity and Trust in Elections. So that is RIGHT is backing that suit financially. There's been hemming and hawing, and you know we're into April, so there's the dance going on. The good thing is that similar litigation in Maine was successful, so we have no doubt that we're going to be successful in this. Okay. Now the second thing that has been done, and I just mentioned all those errors, is USA, or United Sovereign Americans, and Maryland Election Integrity, which is a LLC, has filed another lawsuit against the state board for not following Maryland and federal election law. And so that was filed in early March. Okay. So that is, you know, we're only talking about a month out. So we're going to see how that goes along. And what's the objective of that lawsuit? The objective of that lawsuit is to get an injunction against the Maryland electoral system prior to the general election of this year. Says you cannot use this system as it stands. It is not in compliance with the federal law. So it's going to be very, very interesting. We are the first, Maryland is a leader, the first suit that United Sovereign Americans plans to file. There are many other states, New York, Ohio, Illinois, Texas, they're all working, and this is a totally nonpartisan activity. We're just going to say you've got to be in compliance with federal and your state laws. Okay, so what else is going on? This is the big hitters here. Okay, so what Maryland have done, we're one of the few states, we have purchased the Election Fairness Institute's precinct mapping of the entire state for the 2020 election. Now, what is this all about? What the EFI does is they look at each precinct and they see whether the election results diverge from voter registration trends, which indicate the probability of fraud. And so we've got a complete map across every precinct in Maryland of where we think there's a high probability, a middle probability, and a low probability of fraud. So we're using that to look at registrations and determine where there needs to be some improvements to the electoral process. Now, I'll mention a couple other things here. I personally, and I'm in Howard County, and we have a group that meets every couple of weeks where we discuss these issues and how we can work to improve the process. Now, one of the things that was done in the state, I feel reasonably confident this tomorrow, is this sine die of the Maryland State Legislature. I think the limited work that we've done is that ranked choice voting didn't go anywhere in Maryland. Now, what is ranked choice voting? Well, everybody should be on the lookout for this because it's not simple voting where you just count the ballots. It's you rack them up and then you and rather than having a runoff like they have in some of the other states, you have a continuous runoff where you rank all the candidates, then you knock the one out that gets the least votes, and then you go to the next round and the next round, and it can really produce some strange results. Like in Alaska, you have a situation where they got a Democrat legislator who in a Republican state, or a congresswoman, I should say. So it's a way to manipulate the voting system. So we're doing everything to try to stop that. So, and the final thing I'll mention here is we have a petition effort for free, fair, and transparent elections, like voter ID, paper ballots, no machines, things like that. And that petition we circulated it, and this last week, a group of our folks delivered over 2,300 signatures to the legislators in Annapolis. That's not the closeout of this project. This is going to continue on through 2024, or their objective to get upwards of 60,000 signatures statewide. We're looking forward to this because the weather's warming. It's hard to get signatures when it's cold. So, because you don't stand outside. Nobody wants to stand outside and sign a thing. So that's pretty much a summary of nutshell of what's going on in the state.
You guys have been really, really busy. I know David and I know Kate, and you guys make a heck of a team. And I just am appreciative of what you're doing because you're doing this for America, for everybody. But now I got another question for you. You
Okay.
ready? Can you tell me about the website card project that you're involved in?
Okay. Well, thank you for asking about this, Bernie. So, during the height of the vaccination crisis, I would say 2021, I walk into Walmart one afternoon and I see a stocking clerk, and I walk up to her and I said, "Are they going to make you guys get vaccinated?" And she looks at me and says, "I don't know." So we start talking back and forth, back and forth. And after a while, she looks at me and says, "Where do you get your information?" And I said, "Well, I go to these websites." And so I pull out a napkin and I start writing down websites. And so I hand that to her and I walk out of there and I go, bingo, what have we got to do? In fact, I wasn't thinking I was going to be on camera. So this little card was born here. And it is a two-sided card, as you can see here. And it says, it's a little marketing piece on the front that says, "Hey, you, get your attention." And it says, "Where do you get your news and information? Hey, the world has changed. Do you want to know what's being censored by the mainstream media, government, and big tech? And then join the millions who've made the switch and visit the websites on the back." And then there are 36 websites here that provide a different view of the world that you get from the mainstream media. There are like 4 climate sites on here. There's a Canadian Rebel News site. There's Bannon's War Room. There's the Epoch Times. There's American Thinker. There's just many, National Pulse. I mean, you name it. It's pretty much on here. So what's the deal with this? So this card is designed for anybody that's a conservative activist that wants to wage an information warfare against the left. The left controls the dominant media, but by distributing this card, this is an opportunity for you to influence America and conduct an end run around the establishment media. And so this card is available, and we printed thousands and thousands of them. And all you need to do is get in touch with me. The only thing I ask is you promise to distribute them if you take them, okay? And the idea is you go into a restaurant, you just leave one, you go into your school, go into work, it's just a public dissemination to try to get our voice. It's a very, very grassroots project, and it really requires, there's no risk. It's not like you have to go up and get on Twitter and put your name out there and everything. You're just dropping information to the public. So I know Bernie will go and talk about how to get in touch with me later, but that's how to do that. So
Outstanding. I've got a few of those cards, and I've passed out a few myself, and people are surprised, to tell you the truth. Good stuff. So, got another question for you. You ready?
Sure.
How can folks get involved to improve the election process in Maryland or wherever they live?
Okay, so the first thing you've got to do is you got to make sure you're informed and you vote in all elections. I know it's a discouraging time when we see things that happen, where we think we're going to pick up so many seats and it doesn't happen. And we know the process is being manipulated, and we're working to fight that. But you got to vote. And because if people of our persuasion don't vote, that's precisely what the other side wants to do. Okay. The other thing you can do is, I mentioned the petition, and I won't bring one up. It's a petition, and please sign it if you haven't, and also please ask about and try to help us circulate it, because we want to get it all through all the counties in Maryland. As you might expect, most of our signatures are placed from Baltimore and Howard, but we'd like to make sure we get into all the 24 jurisdictions of Maryland and get the citizens to sign it. Okay. Then the third thing, we just talked about the website card. Contact me. This is something that you could do. This is almost election independent. This is a grassroots campaign, as I mentioned, to educate people. And then the final thing I would say, and if you want to do more, please get in touch with me, and we'll plug you into the networks that I'm involved in and other people are involved in. And there's plenty of things to do, from the activities I just talked about to analyzing voter rolls to getting to know your local officials. There's many ways we can influence the process. But finally, as I was just saying, get to know your state legislators. Most people think about Congress, they think about the senator, they think about the president, but the really important thing in Maryland here is our state legislature and our county officials. So, you have the county officials and the state legislature. And if you get to know those folks, that's how you can influence the process. You can be involved in their campaigns, but the main thing is to let them know that you're paying attention, and so that they can represent your views.
Outstanding. Well, Steve, how can folks get a hold of you if they need to get one of these cards and such?
Okay. Well, the best way to reach me is via email, and it's FSTEVEBROWN. That's F. Steve Brown. My first name is Frederick, so it makes it distinctive that way. F. Steve Brown at protonmail.com. And then if you can also reach me for the website card through website card, all run together. That's WEBSITECARD, website card at proton.me. So those two are the best way to reach me. And I can also leave my phone number, Bernie, if that's okay. I don't have any problem with that.
Totally up to you, brother.
Sure. So 410-200-5766. In fact, I'm one of these that prefers that you reach me by text. Just send me a text, tell me who you are, and I'll correspond with you. I don't answer phone calls that I don't know the person, so it's best to text me. I'm like everybody else. I get way more phone calls than I like, so a text to that number would be helpful.
Outstanding. Well, brother, I appreciate you coming on the show. I mean, it's always good to talk to you, but what you guys are doing, you and Kate and David, sacred duty. And I really, really, really am impressed, and I applaud you. And more importantly, North Carolina State was in the Final Four, and we're both native North Carolinians, native Tar Heels, and it's always good to see our homeboys doing well. So I'll leave that with you. Thank you for coming on the show. I know you graduated from NC State, so, 3 cheers to you.
Thank you, Bernie.
All right. Awesome. Take care, brother. Have a great day.
Well, thank you.
That's about it for now. This has been the Loyal Opposition Podcast, produced in association with Liberty Arise Media, Fallback Productions, and other podcasters. I ask that you like, share, and subscribe to this podcast. Be sure to get your copy of my book, Black Values Matter, available as an ebook on Amazon, Audible, and Apple Books. And also remember that I'm running for Congress in Maryland's 3rd District. We have the best chance to win in a generation, and I intend to do just that. Check me out at flowersformaryland.com or on most social media. And lastly, it's okay to disagree, but if you want our country to prosper, we must insist on unity, transparency, and civility from ourselves and our fellow citizens. Thanks for listening to the Loyal Opposition Podcast. I'll see you next week.